Can Superman cure amnesia with a kiss and his romance skills? He does sometimes have a forget me kiss, but what about a remember me kiss? I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and we're back to Silver Age's romance with a twist. I mean, most of them have twists at this point. But what is it? Are you prepared? For today's outing, we're hopping over to Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, and the story Lois Lane's Other Life from issue 35. It's from the year 1962, so prime Silver Age. And right away, we have to tell you who has amnesia, because it's right there on the teaser page, and it's Lois. But there are some layers to this that make amnesiac Lois stand out. The Silver Age can at times not get credit for when it acknowledges the tropes that it's playing with, or pokes fun at them, or in some ways subverts them. And this story definitely does some of that. It's very self-aware and puts a lot of the more outlandish and stalkery Superman elements on display. It has fun with them, but at the same time, it's still of its era in that it's more focused on the Lois elements than the Superman ones. It treats some of those as completely normal. So it's a very interesting read from that perspective. Now, the art in this is by Kurt Swan and the inks by George Klein. The author is a bit of a question mark, but I have seen it sourced as Jerry Siegel, and based on how it plays out, I could believe it. Jerry Siegel wrote many a messy, dramatic romance story. Although, of course, it could be somebody else. We have contenders. So let us make haste. Just how did Lois get amnesia? And what questionable methods is Superman going to attempt to cure her? I put one of them in the title. The opening narration can really change depending upon how you read it. With a certain inflection, it's fanciful musing. With another, it's creeping dread that even though it's too early, I want to add Twilight Zone music underneath. Have you ever wondered how it would feel to be someone else? Well, one day, a strange freak of fate causes pretty reporter Lois Lane to forget her real identity. It was really important that we knew that she was pretty. We can't forget that. Look at that picture. Disgusting, isn't it, Clark? The way Lois Lane always gets into trouble deliberately so Superman will rescue her. How desperate for a proposal can a girl get?
Ouch! Little does Sheila know it, but this girl in the photo is herself. Sheila is really Lois, who is suffering from amnesia while disguised as someone else.
Clark's like, do I like Sheila more than Lois? Also, that framed photo of Superman saving her mid-flight, is that one that Lois keeps by her desk? Or does the Daily Planet just have that there? It's such a regular occurrence. So right away we can see that the story is poking fun at the standard trope, that of Lois is wildly scheming for Superman's affections. She pursues, he tries to evade. It's part wild goose chase, part foolish suitor, sometimes part love triangle. There's a bunch of mishmash of things in there. But they're all very tried and true. It's just then the details they add to it and the circumstances are what make it go above and beyond. This story is pulling it back a bit and kind of examining it through a bit of a different lens, flipping the script and having a bit of fun, at least with what that says about Superman and Lois's relationship, even though by the end it's going to have to put it back to the messy status quo that it was in the Silver Age. But firstly, important questions. Why is Lois blonde? This is not a wig, alas, but dye. The story opens properly with Lois dyeing her hair for an interview. This with movie star Rock Stone, which appears to be a play on the at the time very famous movie star Rock Hudson. However, the last article that she wrote on Mr. Stone, it wasn't the most favorable, or at least he didn't like it, and so he vowed that he would never be interviewed by her again. But Perry's really insisted on the story, so she's gonna go undercover incognito. He's gonna love that. Later, as she tints her hair blonde, and dons spectacles containing ordinary glass lenses. Rock won't recognize me in this disguise. Exit Lois Lane. The fake credentials I'll carry in my wallet will identify me as reporter Sheila Dexter. I love the fake name that she gave herself. I wonder how long it took her to come up with that. More aliases for Lois Lane. It's on the way to this interview that things go awry and she has a blowout and she drives off the road. She also cracks her head on the window. You know what that means in fictional rules? It means that she's getting amnesia. Bonk, you're another person. And when Superman, who did save her and her car, asks if Lois is all right, she insists that she is Sheila Dexter.
The disguise doesn't fool me, you're Lois Lane, and you know it as well as you know that I'm Superman.
These identification papers prove I'm Planet reporter Sheila Dexter. Stop insisting I'm someone else. The fact that she disguises herself so often that he just assumes that's what's going on. He's like, oh, trying to marry me again, Lois? I can see through your disguise. However, he does quickly realize that she really does have amnesia and proceeds to be as sus and comforting about as possible. Step 1. Grab her off the ground and whisk her off to the fortress. Even though from her perspective, she does not know who he is. He kidnapped her to his fortress of solitude, his own domain. Superman 2025 has poisoned my brain because I'm thinking of all the memes about like that harem's not going to start itself. However, as we go on, you'll see that perhaps it's the other way around. Strike that, flip it, reverse it. It's the Silver Age instead that has its claws in 2025 Superman, and that it very much did. But the harem too, you'll see. Soon, inside the Man of Steel's Arctic fortress of solitude,
I hope radiations from amnesium, a mineral I once found in outer space, will restore Lois's mind to normal. there's a slight possibility it may succeed.
That detail they added of her pounding on the glass. Nice. Just to add to the whole she doesn't want to be there of it all. This does not work, and she's still insisting that she's Sheila Dexter. And Superman can't have that. There are only so many non-LLs he can associate with at any given time. He's nearing his limit. Now, Superman did not time this right because he needs to leave her because it's time to replace the air for the people of Kandor. The people need their air or they're just gonna die. That's kind of important. They are beholden to Superman for their air recycling system. So he leaves to do that, and she says she'll just wander around. I mean, it's not like she can leave. And as she wanders, she comes across his shrine rooms. Curiously, Sheila wanders through various rooms in the fortress, which are dedicated to Superman's friends. Yes, but we're only going to show his female friends for this point. A Lois Lane room, Lana Lang room, Lori Lemaris room, and Lila Laryl room. What a fickle heartbreaker this Superman is. Why, he has almost as many girls as a sultan has wives in a harem. And he probably tells each girl that she is his one and only. Oh, Sheila. He tells all those girls he wants nothing to do with them, except for Lori. He wishes he was with Lori. Oh, also Lila. He wishes he was with Lila, too. Let's break down these rooms. Several things. Firstly, the harem joke. There it is. Making jokes about it since the Silver Age. Also, Lori's married, so hopefully her husband does not stumble across this room at any point. Lana also has a girlhood statue, which means he's either been at this for a while or commissioned a younger version statue of her maid for posterity, I guess. It also amuses me that Lois's main image is her playing tennis. Like, that's a big thing in her life. If there's anyone here who deserves a shrine room, it's probably Lila Laryl. Her story was very sad, and the romance was special. I mean that. Now, these rooms are often presented as they're kind of memento rooms or remembrance places, but they tend to come across as stalker shrines a lot of the time. They do tend to also play them up that way when they bring them back. I'm thinking about Irredeemable. They did that for the Plutonian. Now, after Sheila discovers these rooms and makes this decision that this is the type of man Superman is, she runs back into him. He's changed the air. And Superman is ready for take 2 of curing the amnesia. He figures that Lois has always had a crush on him, so he figures maybe there's some kind of vestigial memory there and he can jog it loose with his lips. And he really does try. As Sheila rejoins Superman,
Lois has always had a crush on me. Perhaps if I kiss her, I'll jar her out of her amnesia.
The monster! He's trying to add me to his collection! Run, Sheila, run. You have to think about how this looks from her perspective, which the story kind of hints at, but from a more comedic standpoint. But you could flip this so easily to such a dark tale if it focused more on what she was feeling about all of this. Superman just has not thought this through about what this looks like from the perspective of someone who does not remember him or remember their relationship dynamic. Lois knows all his problematic, troublesome ways, and she gives as good as she gets. She not only tolerates his shenanigans, at times she instigates and outmaneuvers him. They match. They're meant to be. Sheila's presented more as a regular woman. She's not down for any of that. Sheila doesn't match his energy, but she does slap him like Lois does sometimes. Don't ever try your Playboy tricks on me, you big ape. I despise you. Ow! My hand!
Sorry, I forgot to warn you that my body is harder than steel. I'll return you to Metropolis. Failed again.
You know, Sheila does think that she's a reporter. This harem thing is the scoop of the century. Go back and write about it. However, we don't go there. Superman returns to work as Clark and tells the others what's going on, that that's actually Lois and she has amnesia. They need to cure her. Perry has a sane suggestion, which is that maybe she should go and look at some of her old work and articles, and they'll task her with writing a new one, and hopefully going through that will help jog her memory. If only they had come here first and she hadn't already formed a terrible first impression of Superman. Unlike when he's Superman, Clark actually approaches Sheila with gentleness and kindness. They get along very well. He brings her lunch and later asks her what she think of those articles. How those articles going? Does she feel anything special about those articles? Yes, this reporter Lois Lane, who is now abroad on an assignment, thanks for the exposition. Goodness, what a pest. The way she always chases after Superman is pathetic. I know why she keeps getting into danger. Obviously, she hopes that if he keeps saving her, he'll develop a protective feeling toward her and perhaps propose someday. What a cheap trick. That girl has no pride.
She doesn't know she's criticizing herself.
The fact that this is how amnesiac Lois sees herself in relationship to her own pursuit of Superman, it's very fascinating. There's a lot to be unpacked there. However, here it's just meant more as a comedically ironic moment. Also, there's nothing cheap about getting killed, Sheila. The cost is life itself. Lois gambles big. Love or death. Now, if I were Lois Lane, I wouldn't fall for that big show-off Superman. I'd go for a nice, quiet, shy fellow. Like you.
Imagine Lois preferring Clark to Superman. Her amnesia is causing strange things.
Now we get to think about how Clark thinks about himself in relationship to being Superman. However, this is also a time period thing. This is the Silver Age. And so at this point, Clark is much more persona and Superman is more of the true and present identity, that's going to change and eventually flip over time. But at the moment, that's how it stands. However, depending upon when one is coming to this tale from, it can impact how the characters' discussions about themselves read. Also, yes, Clark, she prefers the man who was nice to her over the man who kidnapped her. Not everybody is part of your romantasy book club. Lois is really not remembering, and Superman's starting to worry. What if this is permanent? He can't be with Sheila. Her initials are SD. But not to worry, he has more schemes, more subtle schemes this time than the sci-fi tube and the kidnapping. He leaves an envelope that he claims has Superman's secret identity inside of Perry's desk, and then he tells Sheila to please go get something from the desk. He's hoping that Lois's innate curiosity and desire to know who Superman is will activate her memories. He's counting on the fact that she's always trying to out him, and that's why their relationship's so terrible, to help save her. But then
She ignored the envelope with a bored expression and reached for the tape instead. My strategy failed. She wouldn't have learned my identity if she'd opened the envelope because nothing was inside.
he's just being careful. He's like, just in case she did turn back into Lois, gotta protect myself. Because Lois would publish that story. Unlike Sheila, who's keeping the harem thing top secret. Superman's just not handling Lois not being around and being obsessed with him / messing with him well. It's sometimes lightly framed as concern for her in the story, but not a lot. It comes more across like he's missing his fangirl. He's just over there going, ugh, Lois isn't thinking about me. Once more, Perry has a better plan. Not that he knows about Superman's last one. He says they should get Sheila to take a picture for Lois because they look so alike, and Lois is away on assignment. So they ask Sheila, can she dye her hair black and pose for a fake photo? How much is Perry paying her? It's not exactly easy to get one's hair from black to blonde. That's no joke. But when the photographic session is ended, I may look like Lois, but I'm sure glad I'm not that silly drip.
Lois needs help badly. I'll try again as Superman.
You know what didn't work the last time? Kidnapping. But that's just because he didn't do it right. He wasn't prepared. Also, there were no witnesses. Shortly, he speeds into the newsroom and then...
Sheila, we're going to my fortress of solitude once again.
You're wasting your time on me, you half-baked Romeo. You aren't my type. Clark Kent is. Also, help, police, somebody. Later at the fortress.
See how I'm destroying the trophies in my Lois Lane room? Witnessing me destroying the Lois trophies may wound her ego and restore her mind. She's not even watching me and says she's looking ardently at the Clark Kent room.
Superman's plan is legit. Lois is an egomaniac. She won't be able to handle seeing images of herself destroyed. I just adore Clark. He's so gentle and shy, unlike you. A Clark Kent room exists in the fortress because Clark is supposed to be one of Superman's closest friends. I do enjoy that note because I can see that being a question that people would be asking for those who are unaware of the Clark Kent room and the Jimmy room and the Bruce room, the Robin room, depending upon how far down the timeline we are. We'll see a bunch of those rooms. However, initially when one learns of this, it begs the question, how many rooms are there? And if you go to the fortress as Superman's friend and there's no room, how do you feel? It must be a mixed experience. Superman, where's my stalker room / shrine? I thought we were friends. All of this is messing with Superman so much. He spent so long trying to make Clark an unassuming persona, and now here Sheila comes, preferring that. What's wrong with her? And now he's gonna have to commission / make new stuff for the Lois room, because he's gonna put it back up. Him and Lois have a special relationship like that. And now he has a new idea. Shatter her mind. Deliberately, Superman changes to Clark Kent before Sheila.
That's right. I, Clark Kent, am Superman's secret identity. It's succeeding. The thought that Clark Kent, whom she worships, is Superman whom she despises, is a terrific blow.
He did it. He broke her. He set her back to factory default. I'm just amazed we avoided the curing a head injury with another head injury trope in this. Takes a concussion to cure a concussion, says early fictional stories.
You were suffering from amnesia, Lois, but you're all right now.
Imagine that. Conveniently, she forgot all that, so she doesn't know that he's Clark. After Superman returns Lois to the planet in Metropolis, to think you preferred Clark to Superman when you had amnesia. That proves I was off my rocker. Wink. Yes, how she felt about Clark, very amusing. Is anybody going to address how much she hated herself when she had amnesia? Of course not. 'Tis the Silver Age. Lois isn't okay. Confirmed. This story is a lot, and personally, I find it incredibly fun. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's really poking fun very hard at a lot of the Lois scheming tropes that they have, and it ends up flipping it a little bit by having Superman have to fight so hard to cure her to get her back to doing what he doesn't want her to do in the first place. However, it is still playing in the standard themes and social mores of the time as well. And also the whole suddenly she likes Clark flip, that is something you'll see a decent amount too, because it kind of flips their almost love triangle they have with her Clark Superman. When we're not playing with the other triangles we can pull from, like her Lana Superman. The story is also really decently structured and tight. It tries very hard not to leave gaps. It does all the things like explain where everybody is and show all its steps, that kind of thing. But then it still has these incredible gaps in its logic regardless because of how some of the events just come across. Of course, some of the actions Superman takes are incredibly questionable if one examines them for any time outside of this just being a zany kind of disposable story. And if one takes any kind of psychological lens to it, it either becomes disturbing or quite interesting and kind of something that you could maybe play with a lot or think about a lot or have a good time with. That's clearly the tact I took. However, the story's intent is also pretty clear, which is just light, small filler story. It's the second story. It's very brief. It is rotating through a lot of the standard plots in the playbook. It's just kind of remixed them a little bit. If you read a lot of Lois stories from this era, not only is this one amusing from a contemporary angle for how different it reads to the roles the characters have come to occupy and how many people are more used to experiencing them, but it's also a good showcase of the era and the way that it's able to flip around a few plots a decent amount, and also how it's not afraid to at times poke fun at itself. Now, some may feel there's a malicious edge to these stories. Some of that comes from the social mores surrounding femininity and womanhood of the time, which some feel just don't translate well or they can't get into. And it's not even necessarily the social mores of the time. Some of it is the code, some of it is generational. There's a bunch of things happening there. And some just can't get behind how the characters treat each other, particularly how Lois is handled in this era. And others find it fascinating or just amusing. As always, different strokes for different folks. These stories can go off the rails in all directions, especially when it comes to the relationship elements. Things that some would consider beyond the pale or questionable for everyone. I just love that these stories can go off on such random tangents and yet they still kind of feel like they belong just because everything is in that vein. It makes this era of DC Silver Age feel particularly fun for me. I love this little filler story. It amuses me. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It sparks joy. But those are just my thoughts and I want to hear yours. I can also see really not enjoying this story and just finding it irritating or odd or upsetting. So I want to know, can you rock with stories like this? Are they not for you? Do they offend you? Do you enjoy them? Do you find them fascinating? It's kind of a link in the historic comic chain. Just all your thoughts, please share them. And while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Also for the eagle-eyed, yes, I got a new tattoo.